I've been delivering for Uber Eats for a while now. Most nights are boring. Same streets, same restaurants, same tired faces peeking out of doors for their food. I used to like the job. It was easy money, no boss breathing down my neck, and I got to listen to music while I drove. But there's one delivery I'll never forget. One night that ruined food delivery for me forever. It started normally enough. I was logged into the app around 10:30 p.m., just trying to squeeze in a couple of late-night orders before heading home. I got a ping for a delivery to an address I didn't recognize, 112 Willow Creek Road. The payout was higher than usual, which made sense. It was a long drive out of town. I hesitated. The place was rural, out in the woods. I hated those deliveries. No cell service, no streetlights, just endless trees pressing in from both sides. But money was money, and I accepted. The order was simple. A large pepperoni pizza, breadsticks, and a 2-liter soda. The drive took me about 40 minutes. The further I went, the fewer houses I saw. By the time I turned onto Willow Creek Road, it was pitch black outside my headlights. The road itself was cracked and narrow, barely wide enough for one car. Branches hung so low over the road they scraped against the roof of my car as I drove. I checked the GPS. Arriving in 0.4 miles. My stomach twisted. That sinking feeling I get when something just doesn't feel right. Finally, the house appeared through the trees. A tall, narrow 2-story farmhouse with peeling white paint and broken shutters. The windows were dark, no porch light on. The kind of house you expect to see in an old horror movie. I pulled into the gravel driveway and parked. For a second, I thought about just leaving the food on the porch and bailing, but something about the silence made me pause. No crickets, no wind, just heavy, suffocating stillness. I grabbed the bag and soda, walked up the steps and knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I sighed, pulled out my phone, and tried calling the number attached to the order. No signal. Just like I feared. I was about to leave the food on the porch when the door creaked open on its own. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. "Uber Eats delivery." Nothing. Just the sound of the door slowly swinging wider. Against every instinct in my body, I stepped inside. The air smelled like mildew and dust. My flashlight app barely lit up the hallway in front of me. Old wallpaper peeled from the walls in long strips, and the floorboards groaned under my weight. "Hello?" I tried again. That's when I heard it, from upstairs. A voice. Low. Whispering. It was too faint to make out words, but it was definitely a voice. I froze, clutching the pizza bag to my chest. "I'm just dropping this off," I shouted. "I'll leave it here and go." The whispering stopped. The house was silent again. My brain screamed at me to leave, but my legs carried me forward anyway, deeper into the house. I don't know why. Maybe I thought someone upstairs needed help. Maybe I just didn't want to get a bad rating. The staircase was directly in front of me. Old wooden steps leading up into darkness. My flashlight beam shook as I aimed it up. That's when I saw movement, a figure darting across the top of the stairs, disappearing into a room. I stumbled back, my heart slamming in my chest. "Hey, look, I don't want any trouble. I'm just here to drop off food." Silence. I should have left. God, I should have left right then. But I climbed the stairs. Each step groaned so loud I thought they might snap under me. When I reached the top, the hallway stretched left and right, lined with doors, all closed. The smell hit me first. Something sour and rotten like spoiled meat. Then came the sound. A wet, dragging noise. Like something being pulled across the floor. It was coming from the last door on the right. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the soda bottle. Slowly I walked down the hall, each step heavier than the last. I reached the door, hesitated, and pushed it open. The room was empty. Just dusty floorboards and broken furniture. But the dragging sound continued. From inside, the closet. I aimed my flashlight at the closet door. The wood was scratched, deep gouges running across it like claw marks. The dragging stopped. The silence was worse than the noise. I stood there, my breath caught in my throat. And then, slowly, the closet door creaked open. I swear, I saw something. Move inside, a shadow, low to the ground. Who's in there? I stammered. No answer. Then, from the darkness of the closet, a voice whispered, "You're late." I dropped the pizza. My flashlight slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor and rolling away. In that split second of light, I saw it. Something crawling out of the closet. It wasn't a person. Its arms were too long, its fingers dragging along the floorboards. Its face, or what I think was its face, was pale, stretched tight like wet paper. Two hollow sockets where eyes should have been. And its mouth. God, its mouth stretched ear to ear, wide and unnatural. "You're late," it hissed again, in a voice that sounded like multiple people speaking at once. I ran. I don't even remember how I got down the stairs. I just remember the sound of it crawling after me, its fingers tapping against the wood like claws. I burst out the front door, sprinted to my car and threw myself inside. My hands fumbled with the keys as I heard the thing slam against the porch, shrieking in a sound that rattled my skull. The engine roared to life and I peeled out of that driveway so fast I nearly hit a tree. I didn't look back. Not once. When I finally got far enough to have cell service again, I pulled over and checked the delivery app. The order for 1 out of 12 Willow Creek Road was gone. No record of it, like it had never existed. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've had 3 separate nights where I've woken up to a sound outside my apartment door. A slow, dragging noise across the floor. The last time it happened, I pressed my ear to the door and heard a whisper from the other side. "You're late. I don't deliver for Uber Eats anymore. But sometimes, late at night, I'll smell rotting meat in my apartment. And every so often, I'll hear claws scratching at my closet door." I've done hundreds of Uber Eats deliveries, but there's one that haunts me to this day. It wasn't ghosts or monsters this time. It was a man. A living, breathing man. And I think that's what makes it so much worse. It was a cold night, in December when I accepted the order. A burger combo and a milkshake. The delivery address was in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. An older part of town where the houses were small. One-story places with sagging porches and overgrown lawns. When I pulled up, the house looked abandoned. The paint peeled in, long curls, the windows were dark and the yard was filled with rusting junk. The only light came from a single bulb above the front door, flickering weakly. I considered leaving. I even thought maybe it was some prank order. But just as I put my car in reverse, the front door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, thin, and completely bald. His skin looked too pale, like he hadn't seen sunlight in years. He wore a dirty t-shirt and sweatpants, and when he smiled at me, I swear my stomach dropped. His teeth were yellow, crooked, and spaced too far apart. "You the delivery?" he asked, his voice deep and raspy. "Yeah," I said quickly, grabbing the bag from the seat beside me. I walked up the steps and handed him the food. He didn't take it right away. He just stared at me for a few seconds, his grin never fading. Then he leaned in close enough that I could smell his breath, sour and metallic. "You forgot the sauce," he whispered. I froze. Sorry, I think it comes as is." Before I could finish, he snatched the bag from my hands, turned, and disappeared back into the house, leaving the door wide open. I stood there awkwardly, debating whether to just leave, when I heard him call out from inside, "Hey, could you come in for a second? I need help with something." Every nerve in my body screamed no, but there was something in his voice, some strange pull, that made my feet move forward. The inside of the house was worse than the outside. The air was damp and heavy with the stench of mold. The wallpaper peeled in strips and the carpet was stained dark with things I didn't want to think about. "Just down here," the man said, motioning toward a narrow door at the back of the living room. It led to a basement. I shook my head. "I really can't," but before I could leave, he said something that made my blood run cold. "She's hungry, and you're just in time." He started walking down the steps without another word, the bag of food dangling from his hand. Don't know why, but I followed. Maybe I thought someone really needed help down there. Maybe I just didn't want to anger him. The basement smelled like rust and mildew. A single hanging bulb lit the concrete room. In the corner sat an old mattress, stained and torn. Chains were bolted into the wall above it, and that's when I heard it. A sound coming from the darkness at the far end of the room. A shuffle. A moan. The man set the bag down on a table and looked at me with those yellow teeth. Don't be rude. Say hello. Something moved in the shadows. I stepped closer, my heart pounding, and saw her. A woman. Thin, almost skeletal, her wrists raw from the chains binding her. Her hair hung in greasy clumps over her face, and when she looked at me, her eyes were wild with terror. "Help me," she whispered, her voice cracked and broken. I staggered back. "What the hell is this?" The man just smiled wider. "She doesn't like cold food. You're going to help feed her." Before I could react, he lunged at me. His grip was like iron as he shoved me against the wall. I struggled, but he was stronger than he looked. "You're going to help her eat," he hissed into my ear. "Or you're the meal." Adrenaline kicked in. I kneed him in the stomach as hard as I could, and he loosened his grip just enough for me to slip free. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a rusted metal pipe, and swung it at his head. It connected with a sickening thud. He dropped to the floor, groaning. I didn't wait to see if he got back up. I ran to the woman and tried to unhook the chains, but the locks were heavy and rusted shut. My hands shook so bad I couldn't even think straight. "Go," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "He's not alone." Her words froze me in place. Not alone? That's when I heard it. Another shuffle, another moan. This time, from the farthest corner of the basement, something crawled out of the shadows. It looked human, but twisted. Its limbs bent the wrong way, its skin pale and stretched, and its mouth hung open in a permanent gaping grin. Strings of drool dripped onto the floor as it crawled toward us on all fours. The man on the ground started laughing. Even through the blood running down his face, he grinned at me. "She's hungry." I ran. I don't even remember how I got out of that house. The next thing I knew, I was in my car, tearing down the road at 80 miles an hour, shaking so badly, I could barely keep control. I didn't call the cops, I didn't tell Uber, I just drove until I was back in the city, back where there were streetlights and people and the safety of noise. But here's the thing. The app kept glitching that night. When I checked my delivery history, the order for that house wasn't there. Like it never existed. And now, sometimes when I'm driving late at night, I'll get a random ping for a delivery. No restaurant name, no customer name, just an address. Willow Creek Road, or 15 Hawthorne Street, or another broken-down house in another forgotten neighborhood. I never accept them anymore. But sometimes, even when I decline, I'll see the order sitting there, waiting. She's hungry. I used to think home was safe. No matter how weird or creepy a delivery got, I could always drive back to my apartment, shut the door, and lock the world out. But after what happened one night last year, I don't feel safe anywhere. Not even in my own bed. It started with a late-night delivery run. I'd been driving for hours and was about to log off when one last order popped up. Not far. Easy payout. Just a bag of tacos to an apartment complex only a few miles from mine. I figured, why not? The building looked normal enough when I arrived. 4 stories tall, beige paint peeling, a buzzing neon vacancy sign in the lobby window. I'd driven past it dozens of times but never been inside. The order was for Unit 3B. I parked, grabbed the bag, and headed in. The lobby was deserted. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, and the air smelled faintly of old cigarettes. The elevator was out of order, so I took the stairs. When I got to the 3rd floor, I noticed something weird. All the apartment doors had numbers except 3B. The door where 3B should have been was blank. Just an old wooden door, slightly warped, with a brass peephole. I knocked. At first, nothing. Then a voice, muffled and low, came from inside. "Leave. It on the floor." I crouched down, set the bag in front of the door, and stood up. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not from inside the apartment. From the peephole, like someone had their face pressed against it, inches from mine, sucking. In deep, wet breaths, I stumbled back, my pulse spiking. "Okay, have a good night," I muttered. No response, just breathing. I turned and hurried down the hall, suddenly desperate to get out of there. When I reached the lobby, I glanced back at the stairwell. There was someone standing there, a figure at the top of the stairs, half hidden in the shadows. Too tall, head cocked at an unnatural angle, just watching me. I froze. Then the lights flickered and it was gone. I didn't wait around. I bolted for the exit, jumped in my car, and drove straight home. By the time I got inside my own apartment, I'd convinced myself I was just tired, hallucinating shadows, letting my imagination run wild. I locked the door, tossed my keys on the counter, and tried to shake it off. But later that night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Knocking. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from my front door. I froze in bed, my heart hammering. It kept going. Knock, knock, knock. Finally, I gathered the courage to creep to the door and peek through the peephole, but the peephole was black. Completely covered, and then breathing. The same wet, heavy breathing I'd heard outside Unit 3B. I stumbled back, clamping a hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. Whoever it was, they didn't leave. They just stayed there, breathing against the door for what felt like hours. At some point, exhaustion overtook fear and I must have passed out on the couch. When I woke up the next morning, the apartment was silent. I crept to the door. The peephole was clear again. Nobody outside. I tried to shake it off. Told myself it was some junkie messing around. But all day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop replaying that sound of someone breathing against my door. That night it happened again, QM. Knock, knock, knock. This time I didn't go near the door. I just sat frozen on the couch, every muscle tense, listening. After a while, the knocking stopped. But then, the closet door in my bedroom creaked open. I swear to God I hadn't touched it. And my closet doesn't swing open on its own. It sticks in the frame. You have to yank it. Something moved inside. I could hear it. A soft shuffle of feet. Then that same voice I'd heard at Unit 3B whispered, so close it felt like it was right next to my ear. "Leave it on the floor." I lost it. I grabbed my keys and ran out of the apartment barefoot, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. I didn't go back until the sun came up. When I finally worked up the courage to return, everything looked normal. Closet closed. Door locked, but the Uber Eats app glitched on my phone. A new order sat there waiting. No restaurant listed, no items. Just an address. My own address, Unit 207. My apartment. I uninstalled the app that same day. Quit food delivery for good. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. Knock, knock, knock. And once, when I finally got the courage to look through the peephole, it wasn't black this time, it was an eye, staring back at me.